for you. So, forward, backward, the laser pointer on the drawing. Okay? Can I go back again? You're on the first page. Okay. Okay, that's it. Okay. And where's the laser pointer? The bottom? This is the top. If you hit the bottom, it'll go blank, and then you just push it back, and we'll come back like this. I go forward to the right, laser pointer. I think I'll do that. Yeah. Cool. That's cool. Closer and closer and closer. I know it's on here, but I guess I'll. Good. Now, do I have to point the thing to watch the changes? Oh, changes. Patrick. Good morning. I was going to wait a little bit, a few more folks show up, but I'll go ahead and start now and hopefully not have to repeat too much if some others join us. I think I'll start off, I know just about everybody here, but I'd want to start off by saying or asking, who am I? You know, people want to know who your county treasurer is. And, you know, I do have a BA degree in economics, an MBA in finance, marketing, and management. So I guess that gives me some credibility with regard to being your tax collector. You know, I looked up this morning on the internet if I'm a politician or not. You know, I think I'm a public servant, and I like to draw a distinction between a politician and a public servant. And if I may read to you the definition I found on the internet this morning, so it's very current, of the definition of a politician: a person who is professionally involved in politics. Well, I guess I had to get elected, so therefore I'm involved in politics. But it really wasn't my political views that got me elected there. You pretty much have to look and see if someone's rather qualified, let's say like a county clerk and recorder in Teller County, which is in the news lately. There's some question about what's happening up there. But you know, you want to have someone that you think will do a good job, and hopefully I have done a good job as your former county clerk, but now treasurer. I have to move on, though, to the second definition of a politician in the dictionary online. It says, a person who acts in a manipulative and devious way, typically to gain advancement. I'm definitely not a politician, okay? at least when I read that definition. I really consider the job of county treasurer as a public servant job, just like the assessor and the clerk and recorder and other elected officials, as opposed to the policymakers at city government or county government or the state government, where they pass ordinances and laws that we all have to abide by. Quite clearly, this slide indicates that I am the tax collector. The title sounds good, county treasurer, but you know, there is a whole finance department in the county office building, and every one of the entities, taxing entities in the El Paso County has their own financial departments, and they handle their own funds. But how do they get their funds? They get them from the tax collector, who collects them from the citizens who pay the taxes. So I quickly go on to the slide that says county treasurer. You may know we've moved to the Citizen Service Center on Garden of the Gods Road last year, co-located with the Health Department, Department of Human Services, Workforce Center, the treasurer, the assessor, and the clerk. It's a pretty convenient place, although it seems to be more on the westerly side of the population. It still is turning out, I believe, and it will in the long run certainly be determined to have been a good move to co-locate all these offices into much more friendly and usable facilities than what we've had all over town. You can see some of these slides on the website. You know, it's clearly what we say here, and our goal is to serve the citizens, you know, and that's exactly what we're doing. Yes, we're the tax collector, We are the county treasurer's office, but we want to serve the citizens in a very courteous and timely manner. And everything we do in the treasurer's office is defined by Colorado statute. So it's very clear in the statute showing on the screen right now that we're responsible for the receipt, custody, and disbursement of all the funds that are generated here in the county. I'm not going to read this all to you, but a lot of it has to do with property taxes, either real estate or business personal property taxes. And I'll get back to the business personal property tax segment in a moment, because that's something that is important to point out to you, a new task, you might say, that we've initiated that hasn't been very successful with regard to the collection of delinquent ones in the past several years. We do collect taxes for about between 150 and 160 taxing entities, and you can see on the screen here not only the county but the library district, 8 municipalities or cities, including the city of Colorado Springs, of course, school districts, metro districts, special districts, sanitation, water and sewer districts, 21 fire districts, and also LIDs, local improvement districts. The numbers on the bottom pretty much tell the story. We send out about 245,000 statements every year, and this year it's estimated we're going to collect about $423 million. I like to think that we handle about $1 billion a year. It's the 423,000 twice, 423 million twice. We collect it and then we disperse it. But yes, we do have to take, according to law, treasurer's fees out of that, and I'm going to mention the treasurer's fees in a moment, because the purpose of this committee, the Citizens Budget Oversight Committee, is to really understand the county offices, how they operate, where the funding comes from, if it's adequate, and help try and set priorities for the commissioners with regard to the use of those funds that we collect. One example is here in the county, you're pretty familiar with the assessor. They have to evaluate, set the valuation of your property. The Board of County Commissioners sets a mill levy, and of course they have limitations as to how much money they can collect every year based on Tabor and other limitations. And then we prepare annual tax statements, collect those taxes, and as I said, distribute those revenues. You may be familiar with the Gallagher Amendment. There's a lot of talk about replacing Tabor. There's a lot of talk about, or adjusting Tabor. There's a lot of talk about the Gallagher Amendment. And this slide pretty much tells you the gist of the Gallagher Amendment, which says that 45% of the taxes collected would come from residential property, the other 55% from commercial property, and it has little ratios there that you have to work with. But if you want to talk about assessments and all that, Mark Latterman will fill you in on that. If you see them, or when you see them, I don't know if you've seen them yet. One of the things that I like to point out, because I think other people will point it out to you, especially the commissioners, is the mill levy here in El Paso County. It says on here 7.7%. Last time I looked, and I didn't look at the most recent, but if you look at the 10 largest counties, including the 9 Front Range counties, we have the lowest mill levy of all 10. And I believe the last time I looked, Arapahoe County was number 9, and their mill levy was more than twice what ours is. It was 15, 16 mills versus our 7.7. I would have to say, having been in county government, now is my 10th year, El Paso County is very lean. Can you find more efficiencies in government at any level? Yes. One of the things that maybe defines me as a Republican, although you don't run an office like that, when someone walks in the door, you don't ask what party affiliation to see whether you want to help them or not, but what defines me as a Republican is something I believe very strongly in, and that's fiscal responsibility. And I believe that even though I said El Paso County is lean, there's no question, I think, as you look at budgets and priorities, you might also find some areas you think probably could be improved upon. But we've had a lot of countywide cuts over the last couple of years, and everyone, I think, has dealt with it very successfully in all offices. Here's a historical mill levy, and again, it has implications based on what Tabor has done to us, but you can see where we are with regard to the assessed valuation going up on the bottom line, the blue line, and then our mill levy on the top red line. And again, what we said earlier, the net revenues, or the gross revenues rather, for our office to collect this year is about $425 million. During the year, there's a lot of deadlines. You know about the 3 tax payment deadlines. February 28th and June 15th are the 2 deadlines if you want to split your property tax payments in half. But if you want to pay it in full, you have to pay it by April 30th. When taxes are delinquent, you'll see in July last month we'd send out delinquent tax notices, and we try and collect them before September, when we have to publish or advertise the delinquent taxes in the local newspaper in preparation for the tax lien sales, which come up in October. I think it's the 16th and 17th of October this year. And then also, if you hadn't thought about this part, the mobile home tax lien sales are also held. It's not just the real property, and also personal property, but also manufactured homes. One of the things I want to jump to, because it kind of impacts things that we do and things that come up. We have these normal duties every year, but then we also have things that come up every now and then. And I want to ask you all a couple of questions, maybe a show of hands or yes or no. You can answer these following questions. How many of you, why is there a blank slide? I don't know. Oh, I see. How many of you have not paid your City of Colorado Springs stormwater fees? Anybody? And you're not going to admit it in a public forum, I know that. So there were a lot of people, and you know the whole issue about the city trying to collect them, and you also know that the voters voted in November 2009 not to have the stormwater enterprise anymore in the city. So that ended on December 31st, 2009, yet the taxes that were charged for stormwater, the fees that were charged, the stormwater fees, were still payable when they were charged. No one has ever determined that the city's stormwater enterprise was an illegal enterprise. It wasn't. And to this date, nobody's challenged that it was illegal. It's not. It wasn't, and those taxes were still due. Well, the city tried to, I might ask the second question, how many think they were illegal? I've already told you they aren't. When we were threatened with the idea of collecting them for the city, we were told we'd be sued by everyone you can imagine, including who just got out of jail recently. I'll sue you if you collect them. Well, we know what the law says. The law outlines everything we do. And I'm happy to see Ken Kyle in the audience here, because he's former treasurer who did, I guess you were in the office for a whole bunch of years besides being the treasurer. And he knows very well that all our duties are outlined by statute. And that's all we have to do, is know what the law requires and follow the law. We don't have a lot of discretion of, well, he's a nice guy, I don't want to collect his delinquent taxes. It doesn't work that way. So I used to ask this question, how many feel we should not have collected the stormwater fees on the property tax bills? Well, the majority of the county commissioners felt I shouldn't. The county clerk, and I can't understand why all these people would weigh in public on these issues, but they said, no, we shouldn't collect the fees. The law is very clear on this. I'm just going to put the rest of the questions up here. Would you be upset with the county treasurer if he added the delinquent stormwater fees to property tax bills? Well, guess what? The Colorado statutes are very clear, not only with regard to special districts, but the second part here, 3120-105 Colorado statute, which says a municipality may certify, if they do so by ordinance, to the county treasurer for collection on the annual tax bills any past due assessments, fees, or taxes, or whatever it says there, charges, assessments, or taxes. And that's exactly what the City Council did on August 9th, 2011. After they tried to collect it through collection agencies and all that, they still had, I wish I remember the number now, 8,000 accounts, somewhere around 7,000 or 8,000 accounts, and millions of dollars in taxes that were past due that weren't paid. Well, you know, the whole idea of the county treasurer, the tax collector, is to collect these taxes, pass them along to the entities, the 160 that I pointed out to you earlier, that need that money to operate every year. They set a budget, they're counting on a certain amount of revenue. And every month when we collect revenue, we transfer to these entities by the 10th of the next month the money that have been collected for them. So it's our responsibility, if a municipality or a special district certifies to us, to include them on the tax bills, that we do so. So that's the ordinance they passed in 2011 on August 9th, and it wasn't until about November 4th or 5th that we actually got the lists and had to populate our database to include the stormwater fees on this year's property tax, well, the 2011 property tax bills that are due and payable this year. What I want to get to now, because it's important to you, and I'm going to have Judy Hardwick, the Deputy Director, Treasurer, come up for just a moment. I want to talk about the budget, because that's what we're here about. Just so you know, the County Treasurer's Office, well, I don't know why I skipped that slide, but we have 18 allocated slots for our office. The current staffing, we do have 7 transaction processors, but we actually split the duties of that one because we started to do a lot of cross-training in our office. So I'm still calling one gal, Christine, who came to us in February 14th, I think, of 2011. She's over in accounting now, in a very important part of how we move around the money. So I have a half there transaction processing, but also half in administration and operations, which includes accounting. And then tax compliance has to do with what we're doing right now. When we have delinquent taxes, we have to post the notices in the newspaper and collect those taxes and tax lien sales, and maybe subsequently 3 years from now issue a treasurer's deed because people didn't pay those taxes and the accumulated costs, including advertising and interest. Guess what? We might issue a treasurer's deed to that property for the delinquent taxes that haven't been redeemed by the property owner. But what this slide shows, see if I mean, one of our responsibilities is following up on the staff comment is, we do collect these monies, and our challenge as an administrator of an office here, a very important public service office, is to hire, train, and retain. And I underline retain for a very important reason. We've had a turnover of 5 people in our small office of 16 staff in the last year. They probably don't like me, and if that's not the reason, it's because they're not being paid very well. We lost 1 to the Department of Defense over at Peterson Air Force Base after 6 months last year. We lost 2 to Colorado Springs Utilities. Hard to defend that. I have to tell you that Colorado Springs Utilities, in my view, I don't want to make any headlines here, is somewhat extravagant with regard to the number of staff they have and the salaries they pay, the compensation they pay. Hey, I'm happy for the young lady who left and went to that office. Actually, 2 of them went to utilities, and they're making a lot more money. Well, that's tough. We can't exactly say, well, if they're making more there, why don't we match those salaries? We can't do that. But we have to be rather reasonable with regard to how much we do compensate the people that do handle $423 million a year twice, in and out, all year long. This is a very, very demanding, I wouldn't say stressful at all, but very important job with regard to collecting and dispersing these monies, and we are not compensating many of our people and our staff very well. I think a lot of them are paid pretty much on the level of any entry-level job in the county, basic administrative staff type jobs, and we're really trying to emphasize this year it's probably not enough. I talked about 1 leaving the Department of Defense, 2 leaving for Colorado Springs Utilities, and I'll mention that the last 2 that left went to the assessor's office. Now, this is where it gets interesting. First of all, in the process I explained to you, you have the assessor assessing the valuation of properties, and then the commissioners or other taxing entities set their mill levies and all that, so we come up with a tax bill that we send out every year. That's important. Well, you can't diminish the role of the assessor. That's all part of this very important process. But when we have 2 people leaving and going to the assessor, this is what's interesting to me. Well, I want to come back to the accomplishments. What we will be asking for is a slight increase. We haven't done this in years, and I never did it at the clerk's office for 8 years, quite honestly. We want to ask for a small increase in the salary line for 2 of the unfilled staffing vacancies. Like I said, we have 18 slots. We've only filled 16. And we want to help retain and more properly compensate existing staff who possess the skills necessary. Well, why do we ask for this? I don't know why that slide's missing. Let me see here. I can tell you what it is, but the point is, and I don't know why it's missing. But anyhow, is it farther? Back. I passed it for some reason. Here it is. Let's skip right over it. We generated in 2011 $3,122,453.77. Right? Right. $3,122,453.77. As all monies come into the county, they go into the general fund. But then they're allocated out for budgets for various offices, and the commissioners have a very hard job to do with regard to deciding, and hopefully with your help, make some strong judgments as to where that money should be allocated. Our annual budget in the Treasurer's Office is about $1.1 million. What does that mean? That means the bottom line is about $2 million in excess revenues called treasurer's fees remain in the general fund, get allocated elsewhere. For example, the assessor's office. Once again, I'm not trying to diminish the importance of the job of the assessor to decide that this house has a finished basement, this one doesn't, therefore the valuation is this, the valuation is that. It has to happen. But I'm saying that if we have people leaving at our entry-level position going to the assessor's office, let's say, as an example, for 20, 25% more salary, that's pretty difficult. And to lose 5 people out of 16 in 1 year, that's pretty difficult. To train and retrain, and what we've been doing for the last year and a half is cross-training a lot of people in all the different skills in the office, which has been very productive. But yet, in this economic time, it's very difficult to keep and retain and keep retraining people for these very complex tasks that we do in our office. So that's why we're going to look for a little bit more money. And again, I haven't asked for that in 10 years with the commissioners when we go to budget reviews in the fall. We always put a list of critical needs. That's not the ongoing. It's one-time expenses that would be very helpful now and then. And we're going to do that again this year, but we don't hold out a lot of hope. And again, the main reason is the board has a lot of tough decisions. When you look at all the budgets and all the departments coming to you, you realize it's a very tough decision. So I've gone through all these. We are going to be asking for that. And before we get to any other questions, I love that slide, I don't know why. I want to have Judy Hardwick come up here for a minute, just a list, if I'm not sure exactly what she's prepared, but just a list of maybe a little more in-depth of the tasks that we perform in the office, and we'll come back with some closing comments. So this is Judy Hardwick, Deputy Treasurer of El Paso County.
So I was just going to let you know a little bit. I know everybody knows we collect taxes, but we do a lot of other things in our office. One of the things is the treasurer acts as the banker for the county, and therefore all funds flow through our office in one way or another. We also handle investments, all bank transfers. We open new accounts as needed. We assist in implementing credit card and online payments for requesting departments. And we're also responsible for the health department's checking, investment, and payroll accounts. We accomplish approximately 50 bank reconciliations every month. We also process the sheriff tickets. Any tickets that the sheriff issues for, they can be for dog fines, speeding tickets, parking tickets, are collectible in our office. Last year we collected over 4,700 tickets, totaling about $496,000. We also produce about 44,000 certificate of taxes due, which is the document you get when you close on your house or you need to know officially how much your taxes are. We also handle numerous information requests from both taxpayers, paying agents such as mortgage companies and title companies, and the taxing entities themselves. We also, anytime there's a mobile home move, we're responsible for issuing an authentication form and a moving permit. These are just a few of our duties. So as you can see, there's a lot of training that's needed. It's not just a simple clerk job. So.
Thank you very much, Judy. Judy has been in the office for about 24 years, and she is, Ken Kyle might verify this, the glue that holds the office together. She's a tremendous talent. We have several others. Doran Kellum, who's in charge of the transaction processors, Gina Travelli, who's in charge of tax compliance. I mentioned earlier about the stormwater fees, that another task that just came onto our lap. We collect a lot of, we add a lot of fees to the taxes every year. Code enforcement fees, City of Fountain, when they don't have water tap fees paid, they certify to us to collect those, and other code violations, neighborhood codes, whatever, the city sends them to us. It's not unusual that other fees and charges and assessments are certified to us for collection. The stormwater one just happened to be a big headline topic. There's one other thing I want to mention, because I did mention, this will come as a shock to Ken, I did mention that we are the tax collectors, and therefore we are the revenue agent of the county. And this is a tool that we will use when we go distrain, seize, and sell personal property of businesses that do not pay their personal property taxes. You may understand and remember that 9 or 10 years ago, maybe 10 now, the county chose not to collect business personal property taxes anymore on behalf of the county's budget. We still collect business personal property taxes for other entities. So maybe it's been a lesser priority in the last couple of terms of the county treasurer, because it didn't impact the county's finances very much, but we had that responsibility to collect taxes for 159 or 60 other taxing entities. So we're in the process of, and we're about this close to going after about 1,500 accounts of people who owe taxes since 2006. It falls off every year, the farthest away year. We got 6 years to collect business personal property taxes like a dentist's drill or teeth cleaning or x-ray equipment. We have 6 years to collect that if they're delinquent. And we have a bunch of those, about 1,500, totaling about $850,000. And, you know, whether we like it or not, I go back to the first slide, you know, county treasurer sounds good, but we are the tax collector. And it's our responsibility to every citizen and every entity we collect taxes for to get that money. So we are having a renewed effort, stepping up to the plate very soon here to get those past due delinquent personal property taxes, business personal property taxes collected. You'll hear more about it. It's not going to be like you heard, several months ago about the till taps. You go into a store and you say, open up your wallet, I want that $300 toward your $1,500 you owe for your personal, business personal property, but it's going to be similar if they don't adhere to our very serious letters outlining the past 6 years what they may owe delinquent, and the fact that we cite the law in there that we will distrain, seize, and sell your personal property if you don't pay by a certain date. It'll be followed up by a phone call. Did you get the letter? Fine. Did you understand what the letter said? Yes. Will you be making a payment by that date? If not, we will move forward with the tools given us by law to collect those taxes. I will end there because we are nearly there. Is it 8:30 yet? And I appreciate your time, and I appreciate the effort that you put in year-round. I know this has been going for several years now, the Citizens Budget Oversight Committee, and it's very helpful, I know, to the county commissioners for you to give your input and advice to them. But on behalf of the Treasurer's Office, you know, like I say, we will be asking for a little bit more money to try and retain some of these folks who are, I mean, the assessor wouldn't be hiring them if they weren't excellent. We've lost 2 excellent staff members to the assessor's office in the last 2 months, and 2 others to utilities. And again, I'm not even asking to compete with utilities salaries because they're exorbitant. I did send a note to Mayor Bach 2 days ago because Scott Henty, the president of council, had an article in the paper, and I wrote Council President Henty back and I said, you know, I'll just make one comment about utilities. I think they're overstaffed, and I think their salaries they pay are rather exorbitant. And then Steve Bach wrote me back and said, you know, it's true. In 3 departments, one was IT, one was HR, and one other in the city, they have about 141 employees. Utilities in the same 3 comparable departments had 294 employees. You know, and it's the job of the city council to oversee where their money's spent, you know, especially the utilities, and of course the hospital. That's a whole new issue that's on the table right now. But anyhow, I thank you for your time and attention, and if there's any questions, I'd be glad to answer a few. Mr. Sorella.
Yeah, on one of your earlier slides, you had the term local improvement district. What exactly is a local improvement
Well, there's
district?
2 of them. What are they? Is one Rancho Colorado, which you've been hearing about for 20 years or more, and the other one was what Vista? Falcon Vista. And they were established how long ago?
Rancho Colorado was almost 9 years ago. I believe they just had about 1 more year ago. That was.
You want to, I'm sorry, share the mic on that. I was talking to Terry Harris about Rancho, Colorado, like 10 years ago before I even got there. And
So Rancho Colorado, the commissioners created a district so they could have roads for their schools. It's south of Fort Carson, I believe.
kind of southwest. Yeah.
So that the homeowners have had 10 years to pay out in installments to pay their assessment on that. Falcon Vista, I'm not sure exactly where that is. It's way out east, I
Yes.
think. It was a development that the commissioners decided to go ahead. I believe the developer went bankrupt in the middle of building. The infrastructure was not there. The commissioners decided to go ahead and form an improvement district, and they put an assessment on each lot, and then those lots are payable with interest out in 10 years. They can go ahead and pay installments. So those are what the local improvement districts are.
Is there a countywide problem with turnover?
Countywide what?
Is there a countywide problem with turnover?
What kind of turnover?
I think turnover with the employees.
Oh, employees. Oh, I didn't get. I don't know. I mean, yes, you see people moving on all the time. County Attorney Bill Lewis just left for private practice. You can see a lot of people that were Lyle, I forgot his name a couple of years ago. They're coming and going. I mean, we have some pretty good stability there. I mean, Terry Harris was there forever. Now Jeff Green's been there at least 4, 5, 6 years, and The finance department's doing a lot to, I'm not going to speak on their behalf, but they're doing a lot to consolidate. Our next speaker, DHS, might talk a little bit to that, the fact that we're trying to consolidate some of the financial departments within each department into a more consolidated group. It's kind of like what happened in IT many years ago, where every department around the county would have different IT departments within them. Well, the clerk and recorder needed it because we had to maintain a separate statewide voter registration database and access that, and it wouldn't be for the county to access it, and then also for the vehicle registration database with the Department of Revenue. So we had a need in the clerk and recorder's office for a small internal IT department, but to consolidate them to a more central IT function of the county, and the same thing with accounting and financial services now is a good idea. That's talking about efficiency in government.
Do you mind if I add something?
No.
I do think it's changed a little bit in all governments, not just the county. It used to be, when you came to work for the county, you knew you might have less of a salary, but you also knew you had some benefits. You had pension and health insurance, good health insurance. Anyway, you had a good stability. I think things have changed a lot in the country, all over, not just here. A lot of young people, I don't think, believe that that pension's going to be there, especially because it's not a very popular thing right now, public pensions. They're not looking at staying someplace forever and ever. They're looking at, I'll stay here, I will do a good job, but you also have to, I'm not just going to wait around for years and years to make a decent living or whatever. I think it's a little bit different mindset. People are more willing to move on into a different career.
You know, I'll add one other thing in closing. As a county treasurer, by law, I have to be on the retirement board. The retirement board here consists of the health department, the El Paso County employees, the library district, the 4th Judicial District, and the smaller group on the retirement board staff, 3 people. Unfortunately, the executive director passed away unexpectedly like that a month ago. But those 5 entities comprise a retirement board of current and retired employees. And as Judy alluded to, it's becoming more and more difficult. You've heard about para and the whole state issue, and that's one of the issues that's involved with the Memorial Hospital lease proposal that's on the ballot right now, 1A. And it's a tough challenge, I have to tell you. I'm even debating not going to a conference in November, which every retirement board member is encouraged to do, to take 2 components of this kind of a certification for pension board members. The only reason is because I'm a fiscal conservative and I hate to spend the $3,500 that it's going to cost. It's a lot of money. And I read every day the Pension Investments magazine, the Benefits magazines, all the ones come around the country, and I feel I'm getting a similar education, but yet every other board member has gone to these conferences a couple of times to get this further education. And there's no doubt that those conferences are good. There's no doubt about it. Best practices that you do in informal settings, meeting with people, but again, $3,500 here, another $35,000, $40,000 to hire another executive director because Mr. Miller just passed away unexpectedly. It's tough. And I'll mention one other one because it's pretty important. You've probably seen the last couple of days the public trustee issues. 54 counties out of the 64 counties in Colorado, the elected treasurer is the public trustee. Public trustee does foreclosures. 10 counties, the largest ones along the Front Range, plus Mesa County, Grand Junction, are appointed by the governor. A political appointment. That's where I don't like politics. We can eliminate those public trustees and make the county treasurer in all 64 counties the same as the 54 that have the treasurer as the public trustee. The savings to El Paso County would be $150,000 per year minimum by eliminating the appointed public trustee. The commissioner from Weld County, north of Denver, testified at the same hearing I did when that bill was before the legislature. They too would save at least $150,000 per year. Now some people say, well, if you have a $250 million budget in the county, what's $150,000? I say it's $150,000. It's a lot of money. So I preach fiscal responsibility. I say that efficiency in government doesn't have to be an oxymoron, and that efficiency can be achieved through technology. And one of the slides I slipped over talked about the improvements we've made with regard to online payments for taxes, with regard to our high-speed scanners, and now process our payments a lot quicker and more efficiently. And believe it or not, you'll see me in the office in tax collection time with these huge trash bags with tens of thousands of envelopes in them. even though the scanners or other people have manually opened those, pulled out the payment coupons and checks, I still go through every empty envelope, because guess what? Every time we do it, we find a check for $1,400 or $600 or $800. And if we didn't go through those empty envelopes, we'd have a couple of taxpayers very upset. So that's not going to happen. If you send a payment to us, we will make sure you get credit for it. That's enough for me. Again, any other questions? Because I know I'm a little bit over. None. Thank you very much, Patrick, and thank you, members of the board, for serving.
Let's take a quick 5-minute break, get some coffee, water, whatever we need to do, and then we'll continue with the Department of Human Services. continue with our presentation from Rick Bengtstone of the Department of Human Services.
Thank you. I'm Rick Banks, and I'm the director for El Paso County Department of Human Services. I've been with the county almost 20 years, started as a child protection caseworker and kind of worked my way through the ranks and was a deputy director and became the director about 3 years ago. Just an overview. Colorado is a state-supervised, county-administered human services system. Most states, actually the states, actually operate these programs. So here's kind of a list of child protection, adult protection, food assistance, which most of you know is food stamps, TANF, CCAP, which is child care assistance, family medical assistance, long-term care, that's what you would know is Medicaid, child support enforcement. Then we'll go talk a little about the federal and state mandates and some of the funding components. I kind of want to start with child protection. Certainly, it's one of the most important things that we do. We get over 12,000 referrals. This will kind of give you an assessment of some of the data that's going to follow. We get a call to our hotline. We have a unit of people who take phone calls when schools, doctors, hospitals call in abuse or neglect concerns. We triage those reports. Every report goes to a team of supervisors or lead workers. They make a decision whether it'll be an assessment. That means it'll be assigned to a caseworker to do an assessment. Some that we may just refer to a community agency, or we may just have no follow-up. If people go deeper into the system, we may create a case. If a child is truly severely injured or abused or neglected and we have no family member, we may put them in foster care. We have actually over 200 kids who are with kinship placements. In other words, we prefer to place with relatives, and that's usually our first choice. As we go deeper into the system, most kids return home if they're in foster care. Most of the kids that we do protective supervision, they stay home, but we actually supervise those families and provide services. If they can't return home, we'll do a guardianship with relatives, or again, the most extreme outcome would be adoption by a foster parent. We do about 100 of those every year. Here's kind of a summary over the last 5 years of the number of referrals, reports that we get to our hotline. We're currently, probably this year, we're going to also be over 12,000, between 12 and 13,000. So we get over 1,000 reports every month. We are the largest county in Colorado. I think we have over nearly 40,000 more kids under the age of 18 than Denver County. So we are by far the largest county in Colorado, especially with kids. Okay, this is again the next thing. If we assess that, if the triage team says we need to go out and look at this child and do a formal assessment, we do about close to 6,000 every year. So in other words, about half the reports that come in, we actually assign to a caseworker who has a protocol through state law. They have to follow certain procedures of interviewing the child outside the presence of the alleged person who caused the injury or neglect and make collateral contacts and the like. So it's a very structured assessment. Here's a 10 large county comparison. It's always interesting to see where we compare with the other large counties in Colorado. This data was actually generated by Jefferson County and some state folks. The Denver Post is doing a comprehensive story. Probably they have like 5 or 6 reporters over the last 6 months. They're going to be doing a series of articles probably started in November on Colorado and the child welfare system. So as you can see, assessments, Colorado has, last month, 40% more than Denver last year. Cases, again, we're close to Denver. Our allocation is generally about $44 million for child welfare, excluding our core, which I'll talk about a little bit, so it's close to $50 million. But Denver gets close to $17 million more than us. So as we have more services, Elaine and I and Commissioner Clark are actually going up to Denver next week to do a child welfare consultation group with the state. Funding. As you can see, we have seen increases. Our need has grown. Our community continues to grow. So we're currently at about $43 million in general child protection. Core services is almost $6 million. That's services, therapeutic, home-based, substance abuse, services that we provide to families to try to keep kids home or get them home if they're in foster care. So our current allocation is about $49 million per year for child protection. One of the initiatives actually, we had 10 child abuse neglect fatalities in El Paso County Last year, in 2011, that was nearly a third of the entire state number. So many people in the community were very concerned, hospitals, elected officials. So actually, Dan May, the DA, and Commissioner Sally Clark got together to initiate a Not One More Child initiative. And we've created 6 subcommittees, hotline, how can we have a 1-800 number, how can people, when they need help, not call the Department of Human Services necessarily, but how do they get supports if they're really stressed or overwhelmed? Hospitals, Memorial initiated a video for all new parents when babies are born. That's actually been expanded now to Penrose and Evans, both show a video. So it's incredible that people don't understand what happens when a baby's crying. If you shake that baby, 30 seconds of shaking, that baby could be injured for the rest of their life. They could go blind, pervasive developmental disabilities. So, really, again, I think a lot of young parents don't understand the consequences of some of those things. First responders, we've had law enforcement, police officials, fire officials. Again, Fountain Police have participated. How can they, when they go on a domestic violence case, how can they provide good information to assure that families have the resources that they need? So, again, they don't do something that they'll regret for the rest of their lives. Okay, the other thing we do is adult protection. Much smaller area than child protection. We have 1 supervisor and 6 caseworkers. Difference, people say, well, why do you have so few workers? Well, adults have a lot of control over what they do. If somebody wants to smoke 8 packs of cigarettes a day, drink, do drugs, whatever, if they're competent, we don't necessarily try to protect them from themselves, so to speak. But we do have, when we have like elderly or people who are developmentally disabled, if people are exploiting them for their financial resources or grossly neglecting them, we will intervene. We can go to court and get guardianships or conservatorships for some of those folks. Self-neglect's a big issue, especially for the elderly. Again, people have a broad right to self-determination, but when they truly are harming themselves or putting themselves in circumstances where they truly, police are called constantly, the neighbors see the house is just kind of falling apart, there's rodents and this or that, again, that's an opportunity where we probably need to intervene and get those people on the right track. Do a lot of collaboration with law enforcement. Here's the 5-year trends for adult protection. As you see, they've dropped actually quite a bit in 2011, and I've tried to give that some thought. We did have a grant in the last 2 or 3 years ago where there was some comprehensive training. There was a federal grant where many of the people who work in this field, Chris Garvin, our manager, did some extensive training with law enforcement, long-term care facilities, the hospitals. So I think people have a better understanding of when to report adult abuse, neglect, self-neglect, or like financial exploitation. Okay, food assistance. It's currently Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program. It's the SNAP program. People still refer to it as the food stamp program. As you can see, in 2011, we averaged 26,914 cases per month. I can tell you at the end of July, we had over 30,000 families in El Paso County on food assistance. It continues to grow, even though we think it's going to level, but it continues to grow. Since 2008, we've increased our food assistance cases by nearly 100%. 2008, these are 100% federal benefits. In the year 2008, we issued $46.6 million in actually food assistance benefits. In 2011, it was $102 million. And again, those benefits are put on what an EBT card, electronic benefit transfer card. There's no such thing as food stamps anymore. They went away over 10 years ago, but so it's a card system where it's swiped and the benefits are automatically put on. Again, here's the benefits. 2012, we're looking at, this is the state fiscal year, so which ended June 30th. So as you can see, we went up again. For ending June 30th, we issued from July 1, 2011 to June 30th, 2012, $108 million, $200,000 in food assistance benefits. Family medical assistance cases, again, that's Medicaid. 21,000 cases, average, as you can see, a continued increase. There's well over 70,000 people in El Paso County on Medicaid. Again, many of them are small children. It's people in nursing homes. It's the pervasively developmentally disabled. So again, over half are probably children under the age of 18. There are multiple different forms of Medicaid. Long-term care cases, again, that's Medicaid. again, the preference is if you're somebody who is low income, elderly, or disabled, can we provide in-home services, Medicaid, medical, CNAs, and the like, to keep them at home? So again, that's probably the majority of these cases, but many people need nursing home care, and Medicaid does cover that. Okay, county administration allocation. County administration is one of our allocations, which essentially funds food assistance, family medical, long-term care, and adult protection. So it's primarily salaries. As you can see, in 2007, it was a little over $4.5 million. In 2011, about $7.9 million. Continues to grow, but as you can see, our workloads have over doubled in the last 5 years. And again, just to mention, we are bound by timeliness processes. There's federal rules around a Medicaid case needs to be processed from date of application to make a determination of approved or denied within 45 days. Food assistance, 30 days. If somebody has really no income or no resources, food assistance, we have to approve or deny within 7 days. So again, every program's a little different. TANF, Temporary Assistance for Needy Families. This is generally what people think of as welfare. It used to be the old Aid to Family Dependent Children's Program. So it has to be an adult. You have to have a minor child under the age of 18 to be eligible for basic cash assistance. We also have a diversion program. So again, if we have people who come in or maybe job ready, who have some basic skills, we will refer them to Goodwill Industries. We actually contract with them. They'll work with them intensely for 60 days, provide them with, if they need gas money, some rental assistance, utilities. But the goal is Goodwill has their own staffing service. They work with employers. So we're really getting those people into some kind of job immediately. The struggle is the people who have significant barriers, whether they be substance abuse, mental illness, just other issues that really chronically they just can't seem to get a good foothold in a job. So again, we sometimes work with those people much longer. So we have close to 2,000 households in that program, and our allocation or our expenditures last year were close to $19 million. CCAP is the Colorado Child Care Assistance Program. Again, we've seen some numbers drop with that as well. Primarily, this program gives us a little bit of flexibility. Years ago, we actually were at 185% of federal poverty level to get more people so that they had, any of you who have paid for daycare, it's expensive. With our allocations being flat and the numbers rising, we actually dropped it to the federal minimum of 130% federal poverty level. So in other words, somebody can't make more than, say, a family of 4, maybe it's $25,000, something like that. It's probably 130% of federal poverty level. And again, we're trying to work with the people who are most needy, those on the TANF program, who really just have no other resource to get them to work. And that expenditure is a little over $10 million, $10.5 million in 2011. Low-income energy assistance program, LEAP. We have over 15,000 households who get, again, this program runs from November 1 through April 30th. Again, it's during the winter months. It's helping people pay for their propane, utilities. Again, this is often a lot of elderly people on fixed incomes. I think the average payment is about $500 for a given year. They have to verify that they do have utility bills, and I believe it's 185% of federal poverty level. So again, and actually Goodwill operates this program for us as well. They're very efficient and do a great job. They're actually a state model. Benefits issued last year were $6.09 million. Child support collections. Counties in Colorado are responsible for child support enforcement. It is a federal program. We're actually one of 2 counties in the state, Teller County as well, that actually have privatized this program. Young Williams, we got the bid last year, so they're in their 2nd year. Prior to that was PSI, Policy Studies. They had it for 10 years. Every 5 years, we have to put this out for an RFP. And their $45.3 million last year, that was the highest in the state. And their cost-effective ratio of recovery versus what we expend, which is $3.4 million, is probably over twice the national average. They're very efficient, very good at what they do. And as you can see in this program, we've actually been able to cut costs, which is a good thing because this is probably our most expensive program when it comes to county percentages. The federal government puts in 66%. The county has to put 34% to match that. So that's our highest match of any of our programs. Just want to talk about some collaboration, especially at the Citizen Service Center. We're co-located with the Workforce Center and the Health Department. Strong and Healthy Families. That's a program with our TANF program and the health department. We're really getting new parents who have at-risk circumstances. Health department has nurses going out working with these folks. We're doing classes around early childhood development. One of our hope is that some of these people can get jobs either in daycare centers or open their own child care services. So again, maybe they become self-sufficient, but also learn the skills needed to care for newborns. CNA certification program, the Workforce Center contributed some funding. We just graduated about 15 people with CNA certificates, and they're actually placed in jobs already. So between our TANF program, Goodwill Industries, and the Workforce Center, we've actually placed those people into jobs. It was very competitive. We had probably over 100 people that wanted those 15 slots. So, and we're doing another every 3 to 4 months. We're going to start a new class. Chafee Independent Living, Workforce Center. Again, Chafee is for kids over 16 in foster care. They're very high risk for going to prison, to be honest with you, not graduating high school, not having good jobs. So again, we have caseworkers that work specifically with these kids who haven't been able to go home. And then working with the Workforce Center has really been a great opportunity to really assess their job skills and get them into vocational programs if that's what they choose to do. We just opened our Community Outreach Center in Calhan at the State Fair. It was opened on the first day of the State Fair. It's a small building, but we actually have a technician out there 1 day a week, along with the Workforce Center. They have a person out there as well, so that people can, if you've ever driven to Calhan, it's a ways out there. So people who live out east can actually go there and drop off documents, even not just for our food assistance program, but for anything, and that person will get those documents to us and can apply for other programs as well. Job fairs at Citizen Service Center, the Workforce Center is always doing job fairs. Our clients walk right by there, so the buildings, the rooms where the Workforce Center. So again, our goal, whether it be child protection or TANF or food assistance, the biggest barrier for people is employment and good jobs. So again, the Workforce Center is right there. They can do skill assessments and the like, but also they do bring employers in there pretty frequently. Health Department, again, WIC, the Women, Infant, and Children Program. Those are at-risk families, mothers who really have newborns, are getting their weights checked for their babies and stuff. Again, it's a great opportunity for us to collaborate with our child protection services and TANF and the like. So, and again, we have people who come in, they need birth certificates. For Medicaid, you got to prove legal, citizenship, either citizenship or that you're here legally. So, again, if kids are born here, they can just walk downstairs and get their birth certificate, and we can get their benefits processed. Other community collaborations, some of the fun things that we do, some of the things that we always enjoy, Feed the Children, Springs Church, which is the old Phil Long Expo Center. I don't know if you're aware of that. They've worked with us now with the whole county around we bring in about 10 tractor trailers of food boxes from the Feed the Children organization in Oklahoma. But also, I give credit to Becky Jacobs, who's one of my administrators at the department. She's created, over the last 10 years, incredible partnerships. So we have the kids can get haircuts, we have Santa Claus, we have dental screenings, vision screenings. They have bouncy houses sometimes, clothing and the like. So it really is an all-day event for a lot of these families. I think we had over 9,000 people attend last year. Christmas for Kids, that's actually getting, the Four Wheelers Club actually brings gifts for some of our child protection kids who are at risk, who are at home on independent living. So they actually start up north and drive down as four-wheelers with a police escort, and we have kids there and our caseworkers, and it's just kind of a fun thing. So then they go to Southside Johnny's and have a party, so it's fun. Adoption celebration, again, we're going to do that at Springs Church as well. November is adoption month, so again, we like to celebrate our adoptive parents because they really step up. And for kids that really have nowhere else to go and need permanency, we really want to celebrate the people that are willing to do that. Foster Care Appreciation Dinner, we do that in District 2 at Fox Meadows Middle School. We've done that for the last 5 or 6 years. We, again, offer, gift certificates and appreciation to our foster parents. Again, people who really take on some really tough circumstances and work with some tough parents as well. We ask them to engage, to care for people's kids, but also engage the parents. And the back-to-school extravaganza, actually we just did this last Saturday. Again, that was at Springs Church. We gave away almost 3,000 backpacks filled with school supplies. Again, these were people who are in our system, so they had to verify they were on Medicaid or food assistance or TANF. And again, Springs Church, again, stepped up. We had haircuts, so we had a long line, kids getting their haircut, dental screening. We had a couple of dentists actually showed up for Academy Dental. bouncy houses in the back, restaurants bring food and the like. So again, it's just a celebration. But we probably had over 4,000 people show up between 9 and 3 p.m. this last Saturday. So it's fun. So just talking about all our programs, they are mandated. They're by state and federal law. Most of the federal rules come from the Social Security Act, different sections. But counties are able to how to deliver services. So in Colorado, there are 64 counties, or 65, I can't recall. If Broomfield is 65th, does anyone know? Are there 64? I think there's 64. So each county has their own Department of Human Services. There are a couple of small counties out east and on the western slope that have one director for 2 counties, but maybe they have 700 or 800 people in their county. So again, with our county commissioners and county administration, we're able to deliver the services that we need best. A good example would be the military presence that we have. We created a military child protection team. So we have a group of caseworkers that all they do is work primarily with Fort Carson and the Air Force bases as needed, but they're co-located, they know the investigating officers at those bases and the like, so again, it really works well for El Paso County. Funding components. Most of our programs are a combination of federal, state, local dollars. Administrative funding for county staff is generally 80% federal and state, 20% county. Again, as I mentioned, child support's a little different. It's 34% county. Child protection generally is 80-20. There is some 100% funding, but as a rule, it's 80-20. Some programs are funded with 100% federal funds. Again, our direct benefits, like food assistance, well, over $100 million, that is 100% federal dollars, so the county's not putting in any direct county funding for that. Same with LEAP, the low-income energy, so the $5 or $6 million that we provide in benefits is 100% federal dollars. And Medicaid, I think I get a monthly report, which I share with Elaine, and we are in Medicaid expenditures in El Paso County are over $48 million per month. So that's hospitalization, behavioral health, substance abuse, doctor visits, dental visits, and the like. So it's well over $500 million in Medicaid payments to providers in El Paso County every year. Again, that's a match. It's generally 60 federal, probably 40 state. There are no, for the direct payments, there are no county-specific dollars that go to that. Here's a summary, kind of, again, a 5-year trend. Child protection, again, $49 million. TANF, you see our expenditures have gone down a little bit. County admin, administration, again, those programs have nearly doubled, if not even more than doubled in need. Child care assistance, we've been able to stay within our allocations. Again, child support enforcement, Young Williams, that was an open competitive bid, and I think we're getting a really good deal on that. Low-income energy assistance program, again, that's based on federal funding. So if those funds are cut based on federal budget issues, then the benefits are going to be cut. And again, food assistance, again, well over $100 million. So the major funding programs, it's about $197 million for the Department of Human Services. And again, the county has to make different matches. 80-20, there's some what we call maintenance of effort, like for TANF and child care. The county has to put in, maybe it's 15%. But the difference with maintenance of effort, let's say for TANF it's $3 million, the county has to expend its $3 million before it starts drawing down its other $17 or $17 million in allocation. So again, every program has a little different tweak on the county portion. So last year was about $12 million the county contributed to draw down those other dollars. And any questions? Hi, Bob.
Yeah, Rick, when I look at the numbers from food assistance, medical assistance, child referrals, the numbers seem to be trending up in general. Of those numbers in the cases, how many are repeat cases versus new cases? Is a large part of that military because of multiple deployments in the combat zones? And what is being done to increase self-sufficiency to get the repeat cases off the numbers?
Sure. Many questions. I don't have the specifics. Clearly, there are people have, in child abuse referrals, child protection, we may get 2 or 3 calls in a given year on the same family. Many are new, but we're a growing community. I mean, the population in El Paso is, 630,000. I mean, and it continues to grow. We're sort of a magnet. The military, I think people with the deployments, many people stay here and don't go home. Many people hear about El Paso County. I mean, I came here from Michigan in the 90s, and You know, I don't know how many natives there are. My kids are natives now, but I think a lot of people, they've come here and they love the place. So it's just, there's a magnet. As far as trying to, again, for the poverty side, you know, we contract with Goodwill Industries, many community partners. I mean, our focus is jobs. Even for food assistance, there's a program called Employment First. If you're an able-bodied adult under the age of 60, you're mandated to be in some kind of job activities. Either it's job readiness, volunteer work, whatever. So, you know, we're pretty aggressive with that. And if people don't comply, they're sanctioned and their benefits stop. So again, it's a tough economy, though. I mean, you know, especially for the people we work with. You know, the people in TANF, as I mentioned, I mean, they're oftentimes young mothers primarily, oftentimes haven't completed high school, have been in our system either through abuse or neglect or other circumstances. So again, not to make excuses for people, but we really need to look at their mental health issues, substance abuse issues, you know, just what's going on with them and really getting them past those issues so they're ready. A lot of domestic violence. You know, we see a lot of domestic violence cases in our TANF programs. So again, we have people co-located. We have TESSA therapists. Aspen Point's a big partner for us, the Community Mental Health Center. So we have somebody on site, though, so they can actually make a referral to a psychiatrist if there's a need for medication or, again, getting people into an initial screening. So.
I would also want to compliment you and your department. When I joined the DHS Advisory Commission a year and a half ago, I spent a day in the field with a caseworker. I think the girl's name was Crystal Grint. I'm going back a long time. Well-educated, a bachelor's in both sociology, psychology, working on a master's in social work. Obviously somebody who could go to law school or business school and make a ton of money. But very, very dedicated young people committed to what they're doing, and that's a real compliment to you and your department.
Yeah. And she's actually our child welfare trainer now. So,
is she? Okay.
So
was
she
it Crystal Grint?
Yeah, good call. She's
yeah, that was about a year and a half ago.
Yeah.
So some very, very dedicated people who are not in it for the money, but in it for the right reasons.
Right. And as somebody had mentioned about turnover, I could just, you know, as Mr. Balin had mentioned, any given time we probably have 25 to 30 vacancies across our department. You know, we see people leave, but you know, we also, you know, we get lots of caseworkers who come through with the military when their husbands or wives sometimes transition here. They'll come in 2, 4, 5 years, but when they get redeployed, they'll move on. So, you know, it's sort of a good opportunity for those people if they want to work, to be a social worker. Salaries, we've done, you know, I give Nicola and Elaine and Jeff Green and some people in the county commissioners several years ago. They were willing to step up a little bit in county match so that we could raise our salaries. I mean, we were paying technicians under $10 an hour. I mean, we were really, people could go to retail and maybe make more than what our staff were making. We had many people on our own programs working 40 hours a week. So we've really, over the last 3 years, really made a concerted effort to get our salaries. And we're close to the middle right now, probably. We've really done a great job in making sure that we're competitive with other counties.
Yeah, well, glad to see Crystal's moving up.
Yeah. Yes.
The food assistance and programs like that, who's responsible to kind of manage abuse or
Well, we have a fraud program that's actually in the finance, and actually Nicola's and Sherry Cassidy's area. We have a full fraud unit. You know, we take that very seriously. You know, as far as internally, we have separation of duties. So if you authorize benefits, you can't issue benefits. So again, there's some pretty stringent accounting procedures that the state and county have implemented. And again, we see people who keep saying they lose their EBT cards. You know, we challenge them to a certain degree. We've come to the point where we'll do one replacement within 6 months. If not, they have to call J.P. Morgan, is actually who generates that. So again, we do have a unit that addresses that, and we take it very seriously.
is there a report that's on each card of where those cards get swiped or used?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. But again, you can only use, I mean, for food assistance, you can only use it for certain items. So, I mean, you can't, it's not like a cash card, like say a TANF card. If somebody's getting TANF benefits, they can pretty much use those at any, machine, though I think the state was adult entertainment and stuff. They're trying to find where there's a new law that says you cannot use it at adult entertainment or maybe casinos. I'm not sure if casinos were included, but.
Yeah, those were high percentages. I heard on the news that those were very high percentage that was used there.
Yeah. I'm not sure it was in Colorado Springs, but yeah, that's not okay. Oh. Make comments? Sure.
I always have a couple points as it relates to the funding. One of the things that we've always talked about the match, the amount that the county brings down. We bring in 5 times that into the community easily. But the other piece that's really key to county and what we've looked at really maximizing here is taking the $12 million that you see that the county has dedicated, and we actually get back over 60%, somewhere around 60% of that, I believe. So somewhere around 6.5 million we get back from those other lines, if you will, from those other funding sources back to the county to offset our other operational expenditures. Citizen Service Center is, of course, one of the largest pieces that we look at. And for those of you that were on the committee back, in 2009 when we discussed the strategic moves, and in 2010, that was one of the ways that we were actually able to afford the Citizen Service Center and the operation and the purchase of that facility is we were leaving money on the table, if you will, at the state and the federal level, and by increasing our county share by a minor incremental amount, we were actually able to draw down over $1 million more. So when you see that 12 million, really when you look at the net impact to the county budget and the funds and what's not going to facilities or reimbursing other county operations and functions, it's really, I would say, less than $6 million that the county's actually putting in. So it's really key to understanding that piece. We've been trying to explain that a lot and go through that in some of the budget presentations with the commissioners, especially when, we talked about, budget increases, budget reductions. We have to be really careful because if we were to ever try and do any reductions to that line, it would actually have a negative impact to the entire general county operations. So that's something that we watch closely. I just think that's a key point for everything that you're looking at in the funding to understand.
Thank you.
Thank you.
On the one Christmas extravaganza, does the county pay for the Feed the Children, and why wouldn't we use Care and Share?
No, actually, our staff volunteer their time. All county, DHS is probably the biggest contributor as far as time, but that Saturday people have to volunteer. Only thing we do internally is we sign people up. But Springs Church, New Life Church in the past has donated. The county doesn't purchase those trucks. They're purchased by nonprofits and the like, and as well as all the other stuff is donated. Or Springs Church, 2 years ago we ran out of toys. Springs Church went next door to Walmart and purchased $10,000 worth of toys on their own credit card, so it's not county funded. Just other than the staff that volunteer their time. Good, thank you. All right, thank you.
Nicola, do we need anything else recorded, or we're good on that?